Well, hey everyone, I'm Janet B., recovered from compulsive eating and bulimia. Happy to be with you all 1 week before Christmas. And today we are going to be in steps 10 and 11 in the big book. So if you were here last Thursday, we finished up just after we made amends. We will pick it up on page 84. So we went through the 9 step promises, right? No matter how far down the scale we've gone, we'll see how our experience can benefit others. And it says we will suddenly realize God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. And it says, are these extravagant promises? Because they seem unbelievable to us, right? When we first come around. And they say, we think not. They are being fulfilled among us. And remember, we always want to look for clues about God, about what God is like. So these promises are being fulfilled among us. Who's fulfilling them? I'm not fulfilling my own promises, right? These promises, it's God. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Well, how do we work for them? And then it says, this thought about how to work for these extravagant promises. So basically, there's our part and there's God's part. There's stuff we do, and then God gifts us with all this stuff. So this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. I love that they say mistakes. So that means when I mess up, it doesn't mean I'm a horrible person, that I don't deserve anything good ever again for the whole rest of my life. We make mistakes. That's it. Um, and wars have been fought over whether the nightly review should be called step 10 or step 11, like our spot check step 10 and nightly review step 11. I'm not going to get into that war. I will just say, for the sake of clarity, I will call all the reviews, the spot check and the nightly review step 10 and the prayer and meditation step 11. If you disagree with me, that's fine. I may be wrong. It doesn't matter. It matters just that we do them. Okay. So it says, we vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So that's my job, to vigorously commence this way of living as I clean up my past. So that's why I always ask my sponsees when they start from day one, spend time with God, prayer and meditation, right? That's this way of living, getting a relationship with God. Start practicing honesty. Start practicing unselfishness right away. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. That's what steps 4 through 9 are. That's us cleaning up our past. It says, we have entered the world of the spirit. I love that line. It reminds me of like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, right? When she goes from black and white to color. So we've entered the world of the spirit. Well, what does that mean? So the best way I think of it is that normally, right, like on Earth, there's a law of gravity, right? I drop something, it's going to fall. That's the law of gravity. Well, how come airplanes don't fall out of the sky? And how come birds don't fall out of the sky, right? Because there's a higher law than gravity. I believe it's called the law of aerodynamics that transcends the law of gravity. Anyone who knows physics would know that when you take speed plus time and blah, 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 some formula, it transcends gravity. Well, we are now like in the world of, I guess, spiritual aerodynamics, the world of the spirit. What does that mean? It means I do what I think that God wants me to, and He takes care of the results. I don't have to worry about getting what I want. He takes care of everything. So then it says our next function, so after we've cleaned up our past, our next function, our next job is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Well, understandingness of who or what and effectiveness at what. So I believe it's understanding of God that we want to get. That's why there's step 11. We want to get closer to God, understand more about the things of the Spirit, and effectiveness, get better at helping other people. So we want to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. So if I'm here in 20 years, there's still way much more to know about God and ways to get better at being effective at helping other people. So it tells me what to continue to watch for. So I have to pay attention to my own spiritual condition. Am I being selfish? Am I being dishonest? Do I have a resentment? Do I have a fear? When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately. We make amends quickly. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. Okay, so let's unpack that. So it's telling us, look, we're human. We're going to be selfish. We're going to be dishonest, but we shouldn't be dishonest a lot and have resentments and fear. So when we do our 4 steps, we have a way to do resentments, a way to do fear inventories, right? We have these forms, right? Who do I resent? Why? What it affects? We pray, we ask God to remove it. We look at our part and our defects, and then we make amends. We do the same thing now for the rest of our lives. So it's not that I do my 4 step and then I put away that form forever. We take out that form when we need to do a spot check inventory or at night when reviewing our night. So if I have a resentment, I need to review it the same exact way I reviewed resentments in my 4 step. So this is a way of living for the rest of my life. Okay. It says we turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Why? What does that have to do with anything, with my resentments, my fears? And back on page 14, they tell us if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. So I've got a resentment or a fear. I do the work to resolve it. And then to continue growing spiritually, I look for someone I can help. And I think it's also, I don't know if y'all are like me, but if I do something bad, people I think either have a tendency to either enable themselves really badly or beat themselves up really badly. I think we're just wired one way or the other. I'm on the tend to beat myself up too badly way. So this tells me I'm not supposed to do that because that's self-centered. I'm supposed to turn my mind to someone I can help. If you fall off the bed on the other side, right, and you just enable yourself, remember our book says we must be hard on ourselves, but considerate of others. Hard on ourselves doesn't mean we beat ourselves up. It means we take a good, honest look at ourselves. We call a spade a spade. If I notice I've been prejudiced, I tell someone, I don't tell the whole world, but I tell one person. When I've done something icky, I call myself out on it. That's one way we grow spiritually. And then it tells us love and tolerance of others is our code. So normally we live in the world and we think fairness is our code. If someone does something wrong to me, I deserve to do something wrong to them back. If I do something good, I'm entitled to reap a reward from it. Well, that's a code of fairness. And they're saying, no, love and tolerance of others is our code. Love, that implies like self-sacrifice, forgiveness, tolerance, tolerating other people's shortcomings and defects. That's my code now, love and tolerance. So those are the codes in the world of the spirit. We're loving towards others, we're tolerant of their defects, and we're loving and tolerant toward ourselves. We don't tolerate our defects in the sense of we enable them and say it's okay. I caught myself recently in a character defect. It's like, well, but because of my past, of course I'm gonna, and it's like, no, 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 no. I cannot enable myself that way. I can say, I did this wrong thing. I need to fix it. God, please remove the defect and replace it with the opposite. We cannot enable ourselves. Some of us have had hard pasts, and that just gives the grace of God a chance to shine brighter. Okay, and then The beautiful promises, bottom of page 84. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol or food. For by this time, sanity will have returned. And it tells us the two parts of sanity. One, we will seldom be interested in liquor or food not on our food plan. And two, if tempted, we recoil as if from a hot flame. So remember back in chapter 2 when it talks about this illness, it says we don't have the same kind of reaction that people do that stops them from putting their hand on a hot stove. We automatically recoil. We don't sit there and think, okay, that stove is on. It will burn me. I will need to go to the hospital. It's automatic. We recoil and says, but we don't have that with food. Like, that's not on my food plan. It's going to get me in a boatload of trouble. I need to recoil. I need to go away. It doesn't happen automatically. But now look at the promise here. We'll seldom be interested in food not on our food plan. Seldom. That means like hardly ever. You know, we have our food plan, we live our lives. If tempted, so the rare times that we're tempted, we recoil as if from a hot flame. It's like automatic. It's like, I want that. No, that's not mine. Let me go help someone. It becomes automatic. What a beautiful promise. It says, we react sanely because that's sane. To recoil from a hot flame is sane. To recoil from food not on my food plan is sane. And normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. Well, how could that happen automatically? The only way is if God comes in and does some kind of renovation job on my heart and my mind so that now I recoil when I didn't recoil in the past. Only answer I can think of. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor, toward food, what's our new attitude? Nonchalance, neutrality, has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It's been given us. Well, who gave it to us? Our sponsors? No, God. So that's another thing we see about God. God likes to give us good gifts without any thought or effort on our part. It's like we keep our head down, we do this work, and it's like, you know, for me, it was like, oh, I went a day without binging. Oh, it's been a week. Oh, it's been a month. It's just like we're just concentrating on the work and then it just comes. That is the miracle of it. So, in essence, this program is about miracles, like God coming in and doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. The essence of this program is miracles. We are not fighting it, well, because we lose, right? Neither are we avoiding temptation. And let me just say, like now, I can go down the any aisle in my grocery store, at Trader Joe's. I know all you Europeans don't have Trader Joe's. It's a really good health food store. Um, and I don't even know where the candy is. And if I see it, it's like nothing. But at the beginning, it wasn't like that. So I had to be careful. At work, I remember early on there was a pizza party, and it's like, I can't go there because there won't be anything left for anyone else. So I sat in another room and had my meal myself. So at the beginning, we may have to avoid the temptation. But here they're talking about after we go through the steps, after we finish our amends, we're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality. Who placed us there? If I didn't place myself, again, God. God gives us neutrality, safe and protected. So I always think it's really cool. I wish I was an artist because I'd love to do this like thing of God taking someone and moving her to the land of neutrality. Like, can you just see it on a map? The land of neutrality, where she's safe and protected. I don't know, maybe there's like angels all around the border, safe and protected. We are placed there. You know, the angels guarding us so the illness can't get in. Again, if I was an artist or a video creator, I would do something like that. Now I can only do word pictures. So we've not even sworn off because we're in the land of neutrality. We don't have to swear off. The problem has been removed. Who removed it? Again, God. So God gives us gifts. God does a miracle in our hearts. God places us in the land of neutrality. God removes our food obsession. So for any of y'all who are like afraid of God, let's encounter the God of the big book. He is a God we do not have to be afraid of. The problem does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. How could we be? How could I be cocky? God has picked me up and placed me in neutrality. Like, what do I have to be cocky about? Or afraid? Well, not with that whole band of angels guarding me. I don't have to be afraid. That's our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. So here's the thing about the land of neutrality. Yes, the angels guard us, but if I want to leave because I've got, let's say, resentments that I want to hang on to, or I don't like God's rules in the land of neutrality. I don't want to have to do an inventory every time I get a fear. I don't want to have to think of other people. The angels will like part and let me leave the land of neutrality. It's easy. And they tell us in the next paragraph, it is easy, let's say, to wander out of the land of neutrality, to let up on our spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. So if I say, yeah, I don't like living in neutrality anymore. I have to like get up early to pray and meditate. I have to sponsor people. I have to like be nice. I can't tell any lies. Yeah, I don't like it. And, I've been abstinent for a while. So, I'm going to take my laurels and walk out of here and go rest and take a nap somewhere in the woods. We are headed for trouble if we do. So right outside the land of neutrality is the land of trouble, right? The land of trouble. As soon as we leave neutrality, there is no place else to go. It's either God's way in the land of neutrality or trouble. There's no Janet's way and has a nice life. It's either God's way in neutrality or the land of trouble. And we all know what happens there and how easy it is to get there. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. So you can just see, in the land of neutrality, this little voice comes and says, oh, you can go. There's the land of Janet outside there where you can be happy and do whatever you want and watch Netflix all day long and, things are going to be great. That's it. That's what's outside the land of neutrality. And it's easy to listen to that voice because, right? I mean, don't we all want to do what we want to do? And it says, we are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol, for food is a subtle foe, enemy. We are not cured of compulsive eating. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. So I get to stay in neutrality, and there's 3 rules for me to stay in neutrality. 1, I have to do 10 steps. So that means I have to, during the day and at night, review my day, look to see where I was selfish, dishonest, etc. We'll cover all those details soon. I have to pray and meditate for knowledge of God's will and the power to carry it out. And then I have to help other compulsive eaters and practice spiritual principles. So those are the 3 rules to stay in the land of neutrality. And I get a daily reprieve. A reprieve means a stay of execution whenever I do that. And that's contingent on maintaining my spiritual condition. And those are the 3 rules to maintain it once I've cleaned up the wreckage of my past. Every day is a day where I must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. So in the land of neutrality, I just have to think, how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. So what does that tell me about God? God has a will for me. And if I don't know exactly what it is, I can always ask, what does love look like in this situation? Right? Sometimes it's gentleness. If my kids are little and they're about to run in the street and a truck's coming, sometimes it might sound harsh, but always love has to be my motive. Again, do we succeed 100% of the time? Do I succeed 100% of the time? No, but we have to try. That's our goal. It says, these are thoughts which must go with us constantly. The thoughts of, God, how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. Because he's the king of neutrality. So my job is to serve him. We can exercise our willpower along the line all we want. It is the proper use of the will. So that means if I'm, watching something on Netflix and someone texts me and says, I really need help right now, can you talk? I turn off the TV and I talk. I can do that. I can do that by willpower. There's a few things we can do by willpower. We can stop lying, we can stop gossiping, and we can stop complaining. We can use our willpower to do those things. We can use our willpower to, help the little old lady across the street or whatever it is, whatever God puts in our path to help other people. Okay. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. Okay, so again, what does that tell us about God? He has all knowledge and all power, and that He is willing to give me strength, inspiration, and direction. Well, that's good because on my own, I'll just go in 10 different ways. And that's not true. I'll go in one way toward the TV or toward laying on the couch reading a book. So I have to ask God what He would have me do. And it tells us if we've carefully followed directions, so we've done steps 1 through 9, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. Isn't that beautiful? So it's like God has like a spirit, and it's like an infusion going into us. So God is willing to like infuse us with some of His Spirit. Well, God is described as like all love. So God's going to give me that love that in my own heart I can't manufacture. I need His Spirit. To some extent, we've become God consciousness. And here's a good way to be God consciousness. When we do our nightly reviews, to ask, where did God show up today? Where did I see God today? Someone once said to me, if you're looking to buy a red truck, you'll notice all the red trucks on the road. If you're not looking to buy a red truck, you won't notice because you're not looking for it. So actually, I have one sponsee every night in her nightly review. She writes where God showed up. So it's a good practice. I have a meeting with my sponsees a couple times a month where we all get together. And one of the questions we ask each other is, where did God show up this week? We want to keep our attention on God. And again, we can do that by willpower, right? Say every night when I do my nightly review, I am going to write where I saw God show up today. It says we have begun to develop this vital sixth sense. The six, so there's, what are the 5? Gosh, we learned them when we were kids. Seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling. What did I leave out? Hearing, tasting, smelling. Feeling, okay? And now there's a sixth sense, God consciousness. We get like an extra sense. Isn't that cool? But we have to go further, and that means more action. So it says, yeah, first 9 steps, we start getting it, but not good enough. We need to do more. Okay, step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. It says, don't be shy about it. Better men than we are using it constantly. So that doesn't mean just a hello, God, in the morning and we're done. It works, but here's the condition. 2 conditions. If we have the proper attitude and work at it. So what's the proper attitude, right, to have toward God, toward prayer? I believe 2 things that are important are worship and gratitude, right? So worship, so they're different. Gratitude is I'm thanking God for things He's done for me. Thank you that I have a restored relationship with my children. Thank you for if a test result comes back good. Thank you. That's for His gifts. Worship is we are praising God just for being who we are. God, thank you that you are just like all love. A good way to do that is whatever your religion, or even if you're not any religion, there's plenty of worship songs. And so I start my prayer time by singing a worship song to God in the lousy voice that He gave me. If He wanted me to be a soprano, He would have given me that voice, but I'm assuming He's happy hearing my lousy voice. Praise Him. I start my prayer time with worship. And gratitude. And again, when we do our gratitudes, we don't just write them down and email them to our sponsors. We pause and we thank God for them. God, thank you that my kids are talking to me today. thank you that my marriage is good. Thank you for whatever it is. We thank him and we work at it. So that means time. That means time and effort. I ask my sponsees, I tell my sponsees, they need to put in at least 30 minutes in the morning. Not 2 minutes here and there, not, oh, I'm praying all day long. No, 30 minutes concentrated time in the morning between prayer, meditation, spiritual reading. I generally spend about an hour, but at least 30 minutes. And it says, okay, we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. So it says, when we retire at night, we can constructively review our day. So again, this is why some people say this is part of the 11th step. It doesn't matter, but we have to clear the channel before we can let God fill the channel. Okay. So if at night I do my nightly review, I ask God to forgive me for the things I've done wrong, then in the morning, I'm ready. So what do we do at night? We constructively review our day. Again, not to enable ourselves and say, well, I was mean to that person because she was mean first, or because, my parents were mean to me when I was a little kid. No. And constructively also to say, I did this bad thing, but that does not make me, a piece of junk not worthy of God's love. We don't fall off the bed on either side. Were we resentful? Again, if we were, we resolve it the same way we did in our 4th step, including the prayer part where it says we ask God to remove it. Were we selfish? I have a couple of areas where I'm typically selfish, involving not cleaning my house. I can be really lazy with that. And I want to make sure I do an evening prayer time as well. So as part of my discipline under was I selfish, I look to see, did I do my cleaning commitment? Did I do my night prayer commitment? So we can all look, and then of course, general, just like selfishness throughout the day. Was I dishonest? I heard someone say once that if I say that I wasn't dishonest, that's being dishonest. Well, I personally think that's a load of crap, because if we're working this program, we shouldn't be dishonest most of the time. We're supposed to be honest most of the time. But if we're not, we need to call ourselves out on it. Was I dishonest? Was I afraid? If we are, we do the fear inventory. Okay. Do we owe an apology? Did I do something wrong and not fix it? Have I kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Okay, here is a saying I do agree with. We are as sick as we are secretive. We are people who can't keep secrets. That doesn't mean I have to tell the whole world, but it means I have to tell someone, and someone who won't enable me. So I have my sponsor who doesn't enable me. I have my nightly review partner who doesn't enable me, and I have a few people who I know won't enable me. So those are the people, we turn to, and they're people I trust that won't judge me either. Were we kind and loving toward all? So we can just like run through our relationships during the day, the people we dealt with, were we kind and loving toward them? What could we have done better? There is always something I could have done better. I never leave this blank. Could I have spent more time in prayer, more time in spiritual reading? Is there someone who texted me or left me a voicemail that I didn't respond to? What could I have done better? Always something. Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? A lot of times, and I know on the apps it's yes or no. I'll check one and then I'll write partly. Because sometimes I'm like partly thinking about myself too much. And then I'll say, like, how was I thinking about myself? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? I often answer partly. There's some days when I say, yes, I like worked with 5 sponsees, I did this, I did that. But usually it's partly. Again, we're hopeful that it's more and more, yes, I'm doing more to pack into the stream of life. But again, the goal is to be honest. God can't clean something up if I don't admit it. I mean, I guess he could, right? He could just say, I'll take like all the people on this meeting now, and I will remove all their character defects at once. He could do that if he wanted to. But the process that God has set in place for addicts like us is we admit it to God, to ourselves, and another person, and ask Him to remove the defects. So that's the process He puts in place. So if I say, well, yeah, I did that, but it doesn't really count because whatever, then I can't expect Him to remove it. Okay, it says again, when we're done, we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection because that diminishes our usefulness to others. And remember, on page 77, it says, our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum usefulness to God and the people about us. So that's my purpose. So if I'm sitting there thinking, what a horrible person I am, I'm not going to be useful. I'm not supposed to be thinking what a horrible person I am. And I'm not supposed to be thinking what a great person I am. I'm really not supposed to be thinking myself all that much. I'm supposed to be thinking of others, about God. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness. We don't want to leave God out of this because then we're just doing pseudo self therapy. We ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. So, like on my inventory last night, what could I have done better? There was someone who texted me and said, can we set up a time to talk? And I didn't respond. What I could have done better, I could have texted her back and answered her. So my corrective measure, I put, I will text her tomorrow. So I will text her today. So we look to see how we can fix what we did wrong. Okay. On awakening. So now we're back to step 11, as I call it. On awakening, we think about our 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. We ask God to direct our thinking, especially ask that it be divorced, cut off from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. So as part of my prayer, I say, God, please keep me free of self-pity, dishonesty, and any self-seeking motive. And then I add like my own Achilles heel defect, which for me is pride. And I say, please, like destroy my ego. So you might want to think of like, what's your Achilles heel defect? And add it here and ask God to keep you free from it. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. We are supposed to think and ask questions. Okay, here's something that some people say. You're not supposed to say, yes, but you're supposed to say, yes, ma'am. No. First, a sponsor is not a drill sergeant. And if you have questions of your sponsor, ask them. Ask the questions. It's okay. It says, our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. Well, that's pretty cool. So, like, my thought life is maybe going to move from the plane of gravity to the plane of spiritual aerodynamics a little bit more, right? So, like, going to move to that from black and white to in color. So, a couple things about God. He directs our thinking. He forgives us, and He gave us brains to use. That's a good God. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision, right? Should I do this or should I do that? We may not be able to determine what course to take. Should I do this or should I do that? We ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. So, God, I don't know what to do about this problem. Please give me some guidance. We relax and take it easy. So as part of my meditation, I set a timer for 12 minutes after I've done my for me, I do Bible reading, I do my prayer, I meditate. And I set a timer for 12 minutes and I just say, God, I pray for knowledge of your will for me, the power to carry it out. How can I help the still suffering compulsive eater today? And I listen and I write down. So there's all different ways. The way I generally do it is, of course, random thoughts are going to come into my head like ironing. I don't think I've ironed in a year, ironing. So I write the word ironing down. And then it's amazing. I don't think about ironing anymore. So write down the random one word thoughts that come, ironing or call doctor for appointment or whatever. Write them down. And then There's space in case God has anything he wants to tell me. Some days there is, some days there isn't, but I give him the time and the space. Page 87 says, what used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. We start knowing automatically, you know what, this is selfish, or this is loving, this is kind, this is unkind. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable we're going to be inspired at all times. So when people say, oh, I know that God told me this, that, or the other, I'm like, I'm not like, I don't know that. I get a thought and I check it. I think, okay, does this make sense? But if someone says, oh, I know, like, God told me to, quit my job and travel around Europe on a motorcycle for a year. Okay, like check that out. So we're not supposed to assume that any random thought that comes in our head is from God just because we ask God to fill our head. We don't do that. I don't think that God was telling me to iron today. Um, and it says, our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely on it. So it gets better. But again, we should never assume, and in the AA 12 and 12, they're really clear about this. Like, we just don't assume that every thought that comes in our head is from God. Says we usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems, and ask especially for freedom from self-will. So I end my prayer time with, God, as I go through the day, please show me what my next step is to be. Give me whatever I need to take care of the problems that arise. And then I do a quick little worship to end it, beginning and end in worship. And it says we don't pray for ourselves only. Now, if I'm praying for my defects to be removed, I don't think that's a selfish prayer because trust me, everyone around me is going to benefit if my defects are removed. It means, I don't pray for, God, give me, I don't know, a brand new car or something like that. We don't pray for ourselves unless others will be helped. So it tells us if circumstances warrant, we can ask our spouses, our friends to join us in morning meditation. If we belong to a religious denomination that requires a specific morning devotion, we attend to that. If not members of religious bodies, we can select and memorize a few prayers which emphasize the principles we've been suggesting. I mean, there's like the Serenity Prayer, the Our Father, the St. Francis prayer. So there's lots of different prayers. And it says there's lots of good books. I've read like lots of good books on this subject. And if anyone wants any information, you can text me or email me. And it says you can go to your priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they offer. And then it tells us what to do throughout the day. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated, like when we're stirred up or doubtful, unsure of what to do. And we remind ourselves we are no longer running the show. I'm not in charge. Humbly saying to ourselves many times during the day, God, thy will be done. So I have to ask myself, do I say that a lot during the day? I'm going to start doing it now. We are then in much less anger of excitement. Excitement, like that sounds like a good thing, but I think a lot of us know, they did, where we get all excited about like a new relationship and we end up crashing. So we have to be careful of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity. Self-pity is dangerous. I heard someone say once, self-pity parties end with a cake. So no self-pity or foolish decisions because we're going to pause. We become efficient. We're not so tired because we're not burning up energy foolishly like when we try to arrange life to suit ourselves. And then just a promise, like it works, it really does. Like these are the rules to live in the land of neutrality. And they're like not that hard, but we have to do them. And it says, we are undisciplined people, so we let God discipline us in the simple way we've just outlined. So a lot of us, right, we think of, oh, God's discipline. That's like punishment to make us learn our lesson. But here they're saying, this is how God disciplines us. with steps 10 and 11. We do that. He helps us. That's his discipline. And then they conclude by saying, that's not all. There's still more action. Remember, three things to live in the land of neutrality. Faith without works is dead. And the work they're talking about is helping other people. And we will come back and talk about that in 2 weeks. And that is all I have for now.